There are a lot of characters in the Dragon Ball universe that would do really well on the sport of bodybuilding. You might think of someone like Goku or Broly or Vegeta, or like we talked about in one of our previous videos, even TN. But one guy may not necessarily come to mind, and that is the one and only Master Roshi. Now, if you're not used to the anime or manga, at first glance, this guy might just come across as a dirty old man, and don't get me wrong, he is definitely perverted. But his full power form is also absolutely massive, and he could definitely compete in the sport of bodybuilding. This guy just goes from a little old innocent looking old man who's not actually innocent at all to someone who is absolutely massive and could compete with the best of the best on the bodybuilding stage. And that's what I want to talk about today. Master Roshi would absolutely dominate in bodybuilding, and here's why. So if we take a look at his normal form here, we might just be like, yo, why is this guy on stage? He's just kind of out there smoking a pipe or something like that. I imagine this is how he comes out onto the stage, and then all of a sudden, you know, we see something like we see the female fitness models out there, and then his nose starts just gushing out blood like it always does when he sees someone that's pretty, and then he's like, I gotta get their attention, and then boom, he turns into the max power form. He just rips all his clothes off, and he's like, yo, I got all the muscles, ladies, check me out. That's how I play it out in my mind, at least. I have no clue how it would actually happen. Maybe he's just got to save the world or something, but I kind of feel like he definitely wouldn't be on a bodybuilding stage just to save the world. He wouldn't do that. He's got to get the attention of all the pretty females there. So this is what he does. He turns into a Goliath, a mass monster, if you will. And in the sport of bodybuilding, we have those kind of men's physique, classic physique, kind of people that are really aesthetic. And then we have the mass monsters. And that's exactly what Master Roshi would be. He is a mass monster, and we can just look at so many different pictures of him where he just turns into a Goliath of a human being. And this is when you know things are getting serious, like the world is actually ending. He's got to go full power form to save it in some way or another. And so he is just absolutely massive. He would do so well in bodybuilding. So I actually kind of want to break down his physique and see just how well he would do and why he would actually dominate in the sport of bodybuilding. So if we take a look at his physique, we can see that yes, he's absolutely massive, so we get that. So from a muscle mass perspective, he definitely gets a 10 out of 10. But what about the other perspectives of bodybuilding? Yeah, we have symmetry, we have conditioning, we have proportions. How well would he do at those things? So like I said, in terms of muscle mass, 10 out of 10, doesn't really get bigger than him and doesn't need to really get bigger than him. Of course, yeah, probably Broly is bigger, you know, people like that. But in terms of muscle mass, you don't really need to get much bigger than this. So let's go to symmetry. Now, if we look at pictures of him like this, we can see obviously almost all characters are drawn to be symmetrical unless they're drawn to not be symmetrical. So he does really well in that area. He would be a 10 out of 10 on that as well. Now, in an area where I think he could use a little bit of work is a little bit of conditioning. So we see there's a lot of muscular separation in these muscles here. We can see all the individual abs. We can see some vascularity, but I think, you know, this is probably the best picture of him overall. Like, we see that vascularity, but we don't see a lot of feathering, and of course that's the art style here, and we can't really expect much more than this. But if we were going to compare him to our type of bodybuilders and stuff, then we would have to deduct a few points because we need to just see a little bit more feathering, a little bit more separation in the ab region, and I think he would do really well. But overall, he's still super ripped. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 on that. Up next is the proportions. How well are his proportions? And of course, when I initially looked at pictures of him in this full power form, I thought maybe his upper body were totally overpowering his legs, and it certainly looks like that in some of these pictures. But then I found this picture. I think this is one of the most popular ones of him in this form, and you just look at his legs, you just get a glimpse of them right here, and they are absolutely massive, especially those quads. You can see the vascularity on them. You can see the separation right there. And of course, he's in a squat here. He's not even flexing his quads. Like, if he were flexing, you could probably see all the separation in those quads. So I actually think his lower body in this shot matches his upper body in terms of size. But then we kind of have to look at the different proportions in terms of the upper body itself. I actually think that in some of these shots, in most of these shots, his shoulders and arms kind of overpower his torso. Like, literally right here, his arm is basically just as big as his torso. Now, of course, his chest looks really big, and you can look at other shots where he's a little bit more proportioned, like this one right here. Like, I actually think he looks great in this shot right here. Now, when I say he would dominate in bodybuilding, I actually mean that mostly he would dominate on the amateur level. He would just destroy most people. But when you put him up against some of the best of all time, like Ronnie Coleman here, we can just see not only does Ronnie have the size, he has that size that Master Roshi has. Like, I mean, if you've ever seen, like, let's say like Darkshine or Biscuit Oliva or someone like that in anime, that's kind of what he would look like drawn as an anime character. So not only is he massive, but he's got those proportions, he's got the conditioning. So I do think that Master Roshi would probably be lacking just a little bit in those areas if we were to put him at the top of the top level. Like, if we were to put him in the Mr. Olympia division, I think he would be lacking. I don't think he would be in the like top 5, top 10 range or so. He would definitely be like the biggest on stage. But like we said, you know, bodybuilding is more than just about size. We have to have those aesthetic qualities. We have to have that conditioning. We have to have the proportions. So I think that Master Roshi would absolutely dominate in bodybuilding on an amateur level. I think he could definitely turn pro. And of course, he's a fighter, so we have to remember that he's not training necessarily to be a bodybuilder. Just because he's drawn to be like one doesn't mean that he is one. But imagine for a minute if he put all of his perverse ways aside and put aside, you know, martial arts training for a while and just stuck with bodybuilding training for like a couple of years and just got his conditioning down pat and stuff. I think this guy would be one of the best out there. I think he could just totally dominate, not only at the amateur level, but at the pro level as well, because he's got that foundation, that physique in which he maximizes his muscle mass across all areas of his body. And he's got a very aesthetic quality to his physique as well. Like, I actually think he might be able to pull off the vacuum pose, and that would be awesome. So that's why Master Roshi, in my opinion, would dominate in bodybuilding. What other characters would you like me to review next? Who do you think would dominate in bodybuilding, and who do you think would not dominate in bodybuilding? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, make sure to like and subscribe. I will catch you in the next video.